Sweep them up fast class, I go start soon. John knew that make me hide them a zoom. That's why me decide to put it in a me shoe. Laba laba do the parachute and jump from moon. That one you know. Everybody have to catch it soon. February, March, April, right back to June. People line up like them in a the platoon. I follow every
Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out, don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6. Story. I'm Nika Lewis. This evening we're discussing parliamentary affairs and we're talking about some new roles and new faces. This evening's discussion will see us talking to the opposition's leader of opposition business in the lower house and the leader of government business, who is Minister Floyd Green. Well, on the opposition side, there were no changes, but obviously Floyd Green now takes the baton from Ed Bartlett on the government side. And so we'll have these gentlemen joining us. The gentlemen should be joining us about now to discuss these changes. So welcome. Minister Green and Mr. Philip Paulwell of the People's National Party opposition, leader of opposition business in the lower house, Mr. Paulwell. Gentlemen.
Good evening, good evening.
Thank you so much.
To be on the program.
Indeed. Minister Green,
yes,
I perhaps should start with you first. I know you're a bit tired. Both of you should be a little tired. I am certainly. It was a long few hours just now. And so, Minister Green, what does this new role mean for you and what does it entail?
Well, clearly I'm honored and humbled that the Prime Minister and my colleagues have entrusted me with the leadership of government business in the House. It does mean a lot of work, trying to ensure that policy priorities brought to the House and that we are able to work together with the opposition to treat some of the big ticket items. Clearly, it's about the flow of the House. It's about ensuring that we kind of have a corridor of civil relations, but that the work of the House gets done. You know, we are first a parliamentarian elected to ensure that we attend upon the Parliament, that we pass legislation, and that we see to the affairs of the country through that regard. So clearly my focus will be on that, working with the Speaker, working with the leader of opposition business, and also to ensure that the Parliament functions, that its committees function, that the committees do the work of the Parliament in terms of looking at our policy prescriptions and ensuring that implementation is happening, and overall that we have a stronger, well-run Parliament. So it is an honor to serve in this capacity, and I look forward to what this term will bring.
New role, but I want to ask Mr. Paulwell, you are returning to your role, Mr. Paulwell. What changes, if any, are we likely to see from your end?
Okay, well, I actually served as leader of government business between 2012 and 2016 and have been leader of opposition business in the last 2 terms. I believe that there are works that have been started that need to be completed. A major overhaul has to take place in relation to how Parliament operates. By the way, I should first of all congratulate Minister Floyd on his appointment, and very soon he'll understand that working across the aisle with me can achieve a lot. If we are able to, cooperate, and I see no reason why we can't work in full cooperation for the betterment of the country. But I believe that there are some outstanding works that need to be completed, especially as we had started a full review of the standing orders. And I believe that is priority 1 that needs to be addressed, as also, as you would have heard today from the leader of the opposition, we really are trying to get the government to appreciate the role of the opposition as chairman on these oversight committees that we were denied in 2000. These oversight committees were chaired by opposition members by virtue of a policy that Mr. Bruce Golding had implemented in 2007, 2008. I believe it's important that we go back to that situation even before we do the fundamental overhaul of the standing orders.
I'm hoping that Minister Green can advise us if any of your expectations will be met with alacrity based on what you've just shared and what the plans of the government are.
Well, firstly, I want to just thank Philip for his kind words and congratulations. And clearly,
it appears we have lost Minister Green for now, but we are up on a break just in time, so stay with us.
Get home with NHD, more possibilities. Get home with NHD, turn a dream home into reality. From vision to foundation, for many generations. Home buyer or home builder, get to your destination. Get home with NHD, more possibilities. Get home with NHD, the key to your home.
ISA Schoolboy Football 2025 Round 1 kicks on Saturday, September 20 from St. Elizabeth Technical High School. The big derby takes the spotlight. St. Elizabeth Technical lock horns with longtime rivals Monroe College in a St. Elizabeth derby. CVM TV, CVMTV.com and CVM TV on YouTube bring you the fever pitch atmosphere at 3:30 p.m. Before that, BB Coke takes on Sydney Pagan STEM at 1 p.m. in another St. Elizabeth derby. See it happen live and exclusive on CVM TV, CVMTV.com and CVM TV on YouTube. That's Stets versus Monroe College at 3:30 p.m. and BB Coke versus Sydney Pagan STEM at 1 p.m.
Join us this week on Tourism One-on-One as we speak to the winner of the first installment of the Tourism Enhancement Fund's groundbreaking Tourism Innovation Incubator Program, Dr. Dwayne Chambers.
Responsibilities in the Parliament, and so we have joining us Minister Floyd Green, who now holds the post of Leader of Government Business in the Lower House of Parliament, and his opposition counterpart Philip Paulwell. So before we went to the break, Minister Green was advising us as to what's on the agenda, how he plans to tackle some of these legislative expectations of the opposition, and so you were responding, Minister Green.
yes, sorry, and apologies. I am in transit, but let me first, if you never heard us, tell Philip thank you for his kind words and congratulations to him, because opposition continues to put their trust in him, and that's because he's done a good job, and I look forward to working with him. I think we can achieve a lot, what the Prime Minister said, through cooperation and in a spirit of civility. So I look forward to that as we move for this term. I think in relation to some of the specific things that he raised, definitely review has started of the standing orders that I look forward to the brief on that work and to see how we can work together. I think we all agree, and that's why the process started, that the standing orders have to be looked at and to see what serves us well, what doesn't serve us well, and how can we reform to be more efficient. I think that's very, very important in this day and age. Additionally, we have looked at the committees of Parliament, and we have reverted to what the standing orders have prescribed. And I think the standing orders, in their wisdom, ensure that there were two committees that by their nature that are chaired by the opposition, and that there are other select committees that are chaired by the majority choosing the chairperson. And those committees, I think, are critical in terms of ensuring that the policy framework of the government is implemented. And as such, part of my job will be to ensure that those committees meet.
So, Minister Green, it sounds to me like the opposition will therefore be limited to chairing two committees only? Is that what we're hearing?
Yes, I think that's what Minister Green is saying.
And the standing orders, you'll understand why. Those two committees are committees that treat with finances, that look directly at holding the government to account, and as such, per the standing orders, the opposition are chair for those committees. The other committees, which the opposition has membership on, are committees that treat policy. So infrastructure, I'm looking at things like the foreign policy of the government and how that is being implemented, and getting the technical people to come and to speak on those things. I think those committees were established in a way to ensure that the government, through Parliament, is ensuring that its policy mandate is being implemented on the ground. And I think what is important is that those committees function, that they are robust, and part of my job is to do that and to get that done. So clearly, we will work to constitute those committees as quickly as possible and to put them to work.
Well, Mr. Paulwell, how do you respond to this revelation about the two committees?
So we have a fundamental problem here. When Mr. Bruce Golding opted for the opposition to chair these committees, it was at a time when he was just coming out of opposition and realized that governments do not perform well in chairing these committees because these committees are really oversight committees that are meant to ensure that there is proper accountability. And it is not only the Public Accounts Committee, the PAC, or the Public Administration Committee, PAC committees, that require active oversight by bodies that are independent of the government. And that's why we are urging to go back to the Bruce Golding model, where all of these committees, production and economy, that's a most important committee, but it is not meeting.
Again,
there is no incentive for the government to have these committees meeting, and we've seen that that has not been the case. I believe that the time has come, and Mr. Holness, having agreed with the previous position of Mr. Bruce Golding and allowed that period between 2016 and 2020 for the opposition to chair, I think we need to revert to that position, and I believe that it will send a strong signal to the opposition and indeed to the country, as he has invoked the spirit of unity going forward. The only way you're going to have unity is if there is greater accommodation, and I agree it can be one side, but this one is so glaring and obvious, and it's a low-hanging fruit that it should be done now.
Minister Green, how will this
go ahead? Where we kind of have a divergence of opinion is, the purpose of the committees. And Member Paul is right. Clearly, the Prime Minister would have seen the operation of the committees from 2016 and would have recognized that, as outlined in the standing orders, which predated all of us, so it's not that it was Andrew Holness who said it this way, as outlined in the standing orders.
But those can be changed, right, Minister?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, but the vision of the standing orders were twofold. Two committees, strong oversight committees. The opposition are in charge of those committees. The other committees like production and economy, infrastructure committee. Remember, there's a separation between Parliament and Cabinet. And Cabinet will oftentimes make decisions, report to Parliament, and those decisions are to be implemented to agencies. Parliament has a responsibility to ensure that the policy mandate of government, whether it be on production and economy, whether it be on infrastructure, that those are being carried out by the technical people. So
all right, but Minister, we're coming up to a break.
Yeah, the government, let me just wrap up. The government has a responsibility through its chairpersons, through these committees, working with the opposition who sit on these committees in proportion to their numbers in the House to ensure that these policy mandates are...
All right, we're going to ask you to hold just a moment because we're up on a time signal.
Maker is paving the way to becoming a republic or future or choice. The time by the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs is
6:45.
We want a piece for Jamaica. Yo, what are you?
Oh man, no, brother, no, man.
You see you ever play ref? No, game,
yeah, but I look a bad game. No, I said, place when you come from, brother, I want to live good, man. And if you live good, brethren, no shake on, I can play a little ball, brethren.
Really have to shake on?
Yeah, man, and no badness, brethren, just live good, man.
That's it. Come together as one, and make the violence done.
Thanks so much for staying with us. You're still on Lead's Story on CVM TV. We're talking new faces, new roles in Jamaica's parliament. And so we have Minister Floyd Green, who now holds the position of Leader of Government Business in the lower house, and his opposition counterpart, Mr. Philip Paulwell, joining us. Of course, Minister, you were raising a point, and we'd like you to finish that point as it relates to standing orders, etc.
Yeah,
because we want to touch on big ticket items like the Republic status, that push.
Yes, yes. So I was just making the point that, you know, this was what it was envisioned. As Leader of Government Business, I have an opportunity now to see if we can carry out that vision, and hopefully we can quickly constitute these committees and put them to work. And clearly, I'll work with my opposition counterpart on it. And clearly, the standing orders are something that are under review, so we will keep that discussion going. But the business of the House has to move forward.
Indeed. Well, Mr. Paulwell, is this now a stalemate, or is there some progress taking place?
Well, I'm really hoping that there will be further consideration given. I disagree with Floyd in trying to establish that there's some separation of powers between the executive, that is the Cabinet of Jamaica, and the government members in Parliament. There's really no such separation, not in theory nor in practice. And you can't achieve separation of powers unless you involve the opposition in a greater role. And all we are saying, we can't comprise the majority in these committees because they are selected based on the proportion of the parliamentary representation. But if you give us the chairmanship, we will make these committees work. We will make sure that they meet. We will make sure that they examine not only the relevant reports, but oftentimes there are motions, resolutions coming from the House, private members' motions that are referred to these committees. If these committees don't meet, we will never get resolution on matters that are before the Parliament, and we have matters there for years and years. I think it is a simple and a straightforward request and concession from the government. And I really believe in the spirit of cooperation, and I'm urging Floyd again to ensure that the powers that be can revert to this prior practice of the committees being chaired.
All right, Minister Green.
I don't want to belabor the point, but I just say two things.
We knew last time there were some meetings that weren't being had from some of these committees. They were on hiatus. So what commitments can you give us now?
Part of my role and responsibility, and the Prime Minister has been very strong on this in his tasking of me, is to ensure that these meetings happen. So, you know, I appreciate what has happened in the past. My role and responsibility now is to get these meetings done. And as such, I will look to constitute these committees as quickly as possible and move to have the meeting. So that is my responsibility. And I appreciate what Philip has said and the offer that they could get it done, but I do believe that we can get it done. Additionally, I think we must appreciate, yes, a change was made. Yes, we went through a period where we could observe under different administration the functionalities of the committees and whether what was envisioned by the standing orders was being achieved by the change. I think the change was made in good faith. But I genuinely believe that what was envisioned by the standing orders of how the committees should operate can be ascertained through the scheme established by the standing orders. So we have gone back to that scheme that was outlined prior to us that says the majority of the members of the committee chair these committees that are targeted at focusing on policy implementation, and that the oversight committees that deal with accounts and finances are chaired by the opposition. And you understand the wisdom of it. So yes, We've seen the other approach. We've reverted to this approach, and now as leader of government business, it's my responsibility to ensure that it works.
Okay, how are you planning on approaching some of the big ticket items, Minister Green, as it relates to, for example, republic status, constitutional reform, all of those things?
Well, Philip said it. I think the key word is a spirit of cooperation, right? I do believe that there are a lot of areas in all of these big ticket items that we agree upon, that we have had various committees, various reviews across multiple administrations with things that we both agree. Like, we both agree that Jamaica should become a republic. And I think, as the Prime Minister has said, he has opened his hand and is making a clear offer to the leader of the opposition to work on these matters. And clearly, Member Portland and myself follow that lead. So I do expect that we will work behind the scenes to ensure that as much as we can come together and the things that we agree upon, we can get them moving through the House, we'll get them done.
Okay. Well, Mr. Paulwell, something I remembered from the last administration or the last term was that the People's National Party, the opposition, was strident on the fact that it will not have certain things in place. It will not accept republic status, for example, without the final Court of Appeal becoming the CCJ. The JLP, the government, had said, no, we don't necessarily agree with that. How will your approach be different this time around as you try to push for republic status or work with the government to attain republic status?
Well, I think in all of this, we have to, as it were, wheel and come again. There was a time when you would have what we call Vale Royal talks, sessions involving the head of government and his or her team, and the leader of the opposition and his or her team. We need to probably just wipe the slate and go back, eyeballing and discussing these important issues. It's amazing how you can get accommodation when you decide to approach it in that way. We do have very important and fundamental issues with the current drive for constitutional reform. Those are well known. I think the attempt at consultation was limited and really didn't express a level of sincerity to enable Jamaicans from all walks of life to participate. And also, just as Mr. Holness, Prime Minister Holness, has spoken about unclenching,
yes,
there are some areas where we are going to be highlighting that there should be unclenching of this. The issue of the final court is a fundamental one. When you look at all the pollings that have been done for the last decade or more, the majority of Jamaicans do want their final court of appeal to be with the Caribbean Court of Justice that we helped to establish, that we currently fund,
yes,
and to which our people, I believe, would appreciate access. And I really believe that this notion that was put forward recently of a Jamaican final court was really a response to our stridency in relation to CCJ. I believe that's an area where the fist can be unclenched.
All right. Well, I want to ask you another thing now. How will you both handle your caucuses? Because we've seen some times where the caucuses get a little rowdy. There are different personalities, fresh faces now, some young faces. We've had on the government side the likes of Mr. Warmington. In fact, today he walked out again. And that is not a rare occasion thing for him. It's a common thing. And so how do you, Firstly, Minister Green, plan to handle those personalities and rein in those people, and the same for you afterwards, Mr. Paulwell?
I think the Prime Minister set a wonderful tone today. I think his presentation about stability it will be reiterated. A good start, and
Okay, Minister Green, if you could try at it one last time, because we missed several aspects of what you were saying.
So I'm saying about the president.
All right, we're going to have to take Mr. Paulwell in 30 seconds. We unfortunately were unable to hear Minister Green. Mr. Paulwell?
Yeah, what I can assure you is that as an opposition, you're going to see a united team. Always, we are going to have frequent caucuses. Issues that we might have, we resolve them in those caucuses. But when we appear to the public, we will speak with one voice. We will ensure that our positions are clearly stated.
Yes.
And we intend to be forceful, but reasonable and with decorum.